Imagine standing in Rome at dawn, the air still cool, the city just waking up. Before you, bathed in soft golden sunlight, looms one of the greatest architectural icons of all time, the Colosseum. Its arches seem to glow, its stones whispering tales of emperors, gladiators, and roaring crowds long gone. The modern tourists milling about look tiny compared to its colossal walls. Can you feel it? That sensation of being pulled back in time, as though the ground beneath your feet still vibrates with the cheers of 80,000 spectators. This is not just a ruin. It's a time capsule of human ingenuity, ambition, and drama. Today, we're not just looking at the Colosseum, we're stepping inside it. Together, we'll peel back its layers, uncover the secrets of its design, and discover why this marvel has stood proudly for nearly 2,000 years. Ready? Let's dive in. The story of the Colosseum begins with a vision, one born out of politics as much as architecture. Picture Rome in the year AD 70. Emperor Vespasian, founder of the Flavian dynasty, seeks to restore confidence after years of corruption and civil war. What better way to win the hearts of the people than by giving them the grandest arena the world had ever seen? Construction began on the site of Nero's private lake, a deliberate choice. Nero had taken land from the people. Vespasian was giving it back. Stone by stone, laborers, slaves, and craftsmen worked tirelessly to raise the monumental amphitheater. By AD 80, under the reign of Vespasian's son Titus, the Colosseum stood complete. Its inauguration was nothing short of spectacular. 100 days of games, battles, and hunts, all free to the Roman public. But why was it so important? In Rome, the Colosseum was more than just entertainment. It was a display of imperial power. Gladiator contests symbolized discipline, courage, and the empire's might. Exotic beasts, lions from Africa, crocodiles from Egypt, bears from the Alps, were brought in to remind citizens of Rome's vast reach. Every roar of the crowd was not just for the fighters, but for the emperor himself, whose presence reaffirmed authority and divine favor. Imagine sitting there as a Roman citizen, surrounded by tens of thousands. The drums beat, the gates creak open, and into the sunlight steps a gladiator, helmet gleaming, sword raised. The arena explodes in cheers. For the people of Rome, this was more than spectacle. It was belonging. It was empire. Let us step back from the drama for a moment and admire the design itself, because the Colosseum is as much an architectural marvel as it is a cultural one. Its shape is oval, measuring about 189 meters long and 156 meters wide, rising nearly 50 meters into the air. Think about that. Almost the height of a modern 16-story building. And yet, it wasn't just massive, it was smart. The arena could hold around 80,000 spectators. That's nearly the size of a modern-day NFL stadium. But here's where it gets fascinating. Roman architects mastered crowd control centuries before turnstiles and security scanners. With over 80 entrances and carefully labeled staircases, spectators could enter and exit in mere minutes. Imagine 80,000 people leaving a modern stadium in that time. It's hard to picture, yet the Romans did it seamlessly. The seating arrangement reflected the rigid hierarchy of Roman society. At the very bottom, closest to the action, sat the emperor, senators, and the elite, positioned so everyone could see them, reinforcing their prestige. Behind them were knights, merchants, and ordinary citizens, each with their designated section. Women and the poor were seated high up, nearly brushing the clouds. Even in leisure, Rome reminded its people of their place. And then there's the facade. Row upon row of arches, framed by columns of the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian orders. These weren't just decorative. They held the structure together while giving it an unmatched elegance. Each level symbolized the layers of Roman culture, strong at the base, graceful at the top. When Romans looked at the Colosseum, they didn't just see an arena. They saw Rome itself, strong, ordered, eternal. Picture it freshly built, gleaming white with travertine stone, statues adorning its arches, banners fluttering in the breeze. Not the weathered ruin we see today, but a shining symbol of empire at its peak. Wouldn't you want to walk in, find your seat, and look down at the arena floor with anticipation building in your chest? Now let's peel back the stone and reveal the genius of Roman engineering. The Colosseum wasn't simply built, it was engineered to last. At its heart was opus cementitium, Roman concrete. This mix of volcanic ash, lime, and rubble created a material so durable that many Roman structures still stand today, while modern concrete often cracks within decades. Scientists have studied it and found that this ancient blend actually heals itself over time as it absorbs moisture. Imagine concrete that repairs its own cracks. Incredible, right? But the Romans didn't stop at concrete. They designed advanced foundations and used massive travertine blocks tied together with iron clamps. Beneath the arena, they created a drainage system that could handle even the heaviest Roman storms. Rainwater flowed away through hidden channels, ensuring the floor never flooded. Some historians even suggest that the Colosseum could be briefly flooded to stage mock naval battles, though this remains debated. And how did they move those enormous stones into place? That's where Roman lifting technology shines. Picture giant wooden cranes operated by pulleys, levers, and the brute strength of men. Each block, weighing tons, was raised skyward with precision. It wasn't just building, it was choreography. Teams of workers coordinated like musicians in an orchestra, lifting, setting, hammering, securing. The result? A structure so sturdy that even earthquakes couldn't fully bring it down. The Romans also innovated in efficiency. They used arches not only as aesthetic features, but as weight distributors, channeling pressure evenly through the walls. This allowed them to build higher, broader, and more stable than their rivals. The Colosseum is essentially a masterclass in applied physics long before modern science could explain it. So next time you look at those ancient stones, remember, you're not just looking at ruins. You're looking at the survival of one of the greatest engineering experiments in human history. Above the arena floor, the Colosseum dazzled, but below it hid secrets. The Hypogeum, a two-level underground network, was the backstage of Rome's greatest show. Gladiators, animals, and props waited in its shadowy tunnels. Wooden elevators, operated by pulleys and manpower, hoisted lions, tigers, and even elephants directly into the arena through trapdoors. Imagine sitting in the crowd as the ground suddenly opened and a roaring beast sprang into the sunlight. The shock, the thrill, it was theater on an epic scale. Then there was the Velarium, the Colosseum's retractable awning. Think about this. 2,000 years ago, Romans had invented the equivalent of a giant stadium roof. Massive sails, controlled by sailors from the Navy, unfurled over the crowd to shield them from the scorching sun. It was both a feat of engineering and a symbol of comfort. The empire cared enough to protect its citizens as they cheered on the games. Acoustics also played their part. The Colosseum's design allowed sound to travel perfectly. A cheer from the bottom rolled up to the top like a wave. An emperor's announcement echoed clearly to even the cheapest seats. Every scream, every clash of steel, every roar of a lion carried across the space, uniting the crowd in one shared experience. Think about how modern stadiums struggle with sound systems. Yet the Romans achieved this naturally, with nothing more than careful design. The Colosseum wasn't just built to impress, it was built to perform. Now, pause for a moment and imagine yourself there. The Velarium above casting shade, the smell of food vendors wafting through the air, drums pounding, the floor trembling as cages below rumble open. You lean forward in anticipation. What would appear next? A gladiator? A wild beast? The unknown was part of the magic. The Colosseum's true heartbeat wasn't its stone, it was its spectacles. And oh, what spectacles they were. Gladiators, often slaves or prisoners of war, fought for their lives. Some became celebrities, cheered and adored, their names etched in history. The fights weren't always to the death, but the risk was always there, hanging heavy in the air. Then came the animal hunts. Rome flaunted its empire by bringing exotic creatures from faraway lands. Lions from Africa, crocodiles from the Nile, leopards, bears, even giraffes. Each beast was paraded before the crowd, a living symbol of Rome's reach. To witness such animals was, for most citizens, a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But the Colosseum also held darker moments. Public executions were staged as theater, turning punishment into spectacle. Criminals might be forced to fight animals or reenact mythological scenes that ended in their death. To us, it sounds horrifying. To Romans, it was justice served publicly, a reminder of the empire's authority. These events weren't just entertainment, they were politics. They distracted the masses from hardship, provided free amusement, and reinforced loyalty to the emperor. The game said, Rome is powerful, Rome is generous, Rome endures. Even after the last gladiator laid down his sword, the Colosseum's story continued. Over centuries, it was damaged by fires, earthquakes, and looting. Yet its skeleton remained strong. Medieval Romans repurposed its stones for churches and palaces. Later, it became a Christian site, honored as a place where martyrs were believed to have died. Today, its influence is everywhere. Modern stadiums owe their design to this ancient amphitheater. Tiered seating, oval shapes, efficient exits, all stem from Rome's blueprint. Even its concept, the idea of gathering massive crowds for shared spectacle, lives on in every World Cup, every Olympics, every Super Bowl. Conservation efforts today ensure it will survive centuries more. UNESCO protects it as a heritage site, reminding us that this isn't just Italy's treasure. It belongs to the world. The Colosseum is not just a ruin. It's a living connection between past and present. And so, as evening falls and shadows stretch across its arches, the Colosseum continues to inspire. Its stones whisper of emperors and slaves, battles and triumphs, cruelty and glory. It is both a monument to human ambition and a mirror reflecting our eternal hunger for spectacle. If you ever visit, don't just snap a photo. Walk through its corridors. Place your hand on the cold stone. Close your eyes and listen. You may just hear the roar of a crowd rising from the past, echoing across time. The Colosseum is not merely history. It is legacy, a story that reminds us of what humans can build, for better or for worse, when imagination meets power. And now I'll leave you with a question. If you could attend one event in the Colosseum at its height, would you choose the thrill of a gladiator match, the awe of an animal hunt, or the drama of a grand imperial ceremony?